Pizda. La ba sa ba da ba sa ba da ba da 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 da. Can I just get 60,000 credits, please? Poor flavor. Gracias. Muscusi, muscusi. Alright, let's see. Starfighter Assault, 3 rounds of Blast, Galactic Assault. Great. Let's play some Blast. Material player! 3 rounds! 3 rounds of a Blaster! Yeah. Ah, Tatooine. Mos Eisley. You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. Did you hear what it said?
Yeah, I didn't really understand what you said.
Did you hear it?
Regroup. All squads defensive.
You could just say no if you didn't hear me.
I heard some of it.
Yeah, well.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
What's going on?
Long time no hear.
Yeah, I know. How's it going?
Oh, you know, I'm just out here living my best life.
Yeah, I hear that.
How are you?
Oh, you know, living the dream, of course. Living the dream.
Yeah, I feel you, dog.
No. Lots of fun stuff. Yeah, just been real busy, that's all. It's been really busy.
Yeah, I got you.
You know how that goes.
Oh, I wrote the book on real busy.
Yeah. So, yeah, but other than that, I mean, I missed, like, a couple weeks. Yeah, things have just been so crazy with me lately.
Yeah, the past couple weeks I've been on, we haven't talked. Like, I just streamed and then got off.
Yeah.
There wasn't much to say or anything. But,
Right, yeah.
I mean, we're live now.
Oh, nice. Oh, sweet. Awesome. Hey, guys. Yeah, no, I did not realize that. No, I haven't, myself really been... I mean, I've been reading randomly some stuff, like rumors and things like that about, episode 9 and the cast and, things like that. But, I don't know ever what to believe, so I just kind of let most of that go. But I hear that, that Lando is going to be in this next one.
Yeah, Billy D's in it.
What's his name? I'm sorry. Mark Hamill's been confirmed for the next one too.
Yeah, they released the cast list, and they started shooting today actually. And there's some new cast members that we didn't know about that I'm not gonna be able to name for you right now, unfortunately. But yeah, Billy D and Mark Hamill are both on that list. As are all the heavy hitters: Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah.
Also Carrie Fisher through some archive footage, so they're not going to use like a CGI Carrie Fisher, which is cool. They got Billie Lourd, her daughter's permission to use archive footage. I guess probably from episode 7 or 8.
Yeah.
In the beginning of 9, so that'll be cool. And the only person that I had heard was in the movie but wasn't on that released cast list the other day is Kerry Russell. So that's a little interesting, but maybe just to me.
Yeah, no, I mean that is really interesting. Yeah, I mean it's so as far as like this movie, like they've done still a pretty good job of like I think it's pretty funny the difference between this and Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, the issues with Solo didn't really start happening until they were like 6 months into shooting. It was pretty far
and
into
even
it.
without like some of the issues, it just seemed like they were deliberate. Like what's his name? Ron Howard was like posting pictures of him and like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is. I mean, even that though, because Ron Howard got hired in really late. So I mean, all that was like like 6 months before the movie came out, and we have, 18 months to wait or so, 17 months. So I think that we'll probably see some stuff like from Mark Hamill, tweeting a picture of him with Daisy Ridley or something. But I don't know that it'll happen just yet,
Also, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but there's a new Clone Wars season coming out.
Yeah, season 7 on the Disney exclusive streaming service, which is an interesting call.
That is an interesting call, but I think it's a good way to get people in, at least a core group. Like, you're going to bring in like a core group of people just for that. Just because it's so, like, a lot of people. I mean, I myself, I'm a pretty big fan of the Clone Wars, but like I've watched the series I think once through completely, and then season 6 I watched twice just because it was really cool. Because they were kind of trying to tie everything into like the new stuff and wrap up some old stuff, so it was pretty neat. But other than that, it's not like I've watched it enough to like recall like quotes from it and things like that.
Right.
But there are some people who really genuinely love the Clone Wars because they are just as into the Clone Wars as they are into like just the movies or like the books. Like they're like so. There's like a whole core group of fans that are like going crazy over this. Like I thought it was pretty cool just because like seeing the trailer for it when they had all the different helmets from like that core group of clones. And you get to know them all so well. It was pretty cool seeing Rex and Fives and all that. That was pretty neat.
It is. It's about the coolest thing they could have done, I guess, other than like announcing a live action, Netflix style show, like the Marvel shows. That's about the only thing I can think of that they could have done that would have been received with more fanfare. I agree that the people that like Clone Wars will freak out over this. I don't know how large that group is in the scope of what Disney's trying to do with this streaming service. Because they're going to want to straight up steal people from Netflix, and I don't know that this is big enough to take.
Oh yeah,
it's
definitely. I mean,
fan.
I think it's one of those things where it's like a lot, like tons of people use Twitter, tons of people use Instagram, but still, both of those things don't compare to Facebook. You know what I mean?
But those are all free. You're going to have to pay for this, and you have to pay for Netflix, and you have to choose what you want more, and that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking like Netflix is such a big thing that nobody's ever really going to compete with it, and all you can do is just put out your own stuff, But like the thing is what I feel like what's going to happen is like Netflix. I mean, I feel like we forget, but Disney owns so much that when they pull all their content.
All their Star Wars, all the Marvel.
They have a tons of Disney movies on there too. My son watches Coco, literally.
Yeah, and there's Disney shows too. And the only thing I don't know is because Netflix, like themselves, produced the Defenders show, whether those will continue to be Netflix properties. Because Netflix,
I think I remember reading that those stay with Netflix because it's like a Netflix original. From what my understanding, that those stay with Netflix. So and then it'll be interesting to see what happens if they pick up or they did pick up Fox, right? That did happen. So
it's not finalized yet, but the counter bid was removed, so there's really no one else to make a counter bid.
Exactly. So now if they pick up Fox and then they pull Fox shows too, then that's a lot more,
it's really just WB and NBC Universal that would still be on Netflix in terms of large, and CBS. But WB and NBC Universal, that's like Friends, The Office, Parks and Rec.
Yeah, there's still some really good shows on there for sure. But those people who like New Girl or I can't think of the name.
Arrested Development. That's another interesting one because Fox owns Arrested Development, but Netflix owns it now. So the seasons 1 through 3 were produced by
They'll
Fox.
Probably get pulled. Yeah,
but I don't know what'll happen because Netflix bought them. So it's like Firefly. Netflix owns Firefly. So I don't know what'll happen from that perspective.
Yeah, stuff like that. It'll be in like the weird space, but for the most part,
But all of Star Wars will be directly impacted. There's nothing Star Wars that Netflix owns. Yeah.
Exactly, and I know, like, and like I said, some of the movies on there, Like, I know some of the indie movies I saw on there from at one point in time. So it's like, you know, stuff like that will get pulled off, which is fine. But I still, like, even with all of that, you know, Netflix has stuff that people are always going to go back to. Like, for me, like, I saw this meme the other day where it was like, Netflix is basically just my subscription to the Office DVDs.
Right, right.
Which is basically true. So it's like, there's stuff that, like, people are never going to stop using Netflix for.
Right.
So I don't think it'll ever compete with Netflix, but at the same time, it's not like people won't. Because if you can...
Yeah, but people aren't made of money. If you have to choose one, people are going to have a decision to make. And that's going to be interesting, because, I mean, if Netflix is $17...
How much is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be, like, $8?
I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be that cheap, because they've got so much crap, and they'll have original series, which you have to pay for. So, I mean, I don't see it being less than, you know, $15.
That's true.
It'll be interesting to see whether there's any, like, component to it like Netflix has with the DVDs coming to your house. That would be cool. But
yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. It'd be awesome to have the entire Disney movie catalog.
Right, that would be good. But I don't know that they can do that either.
But
that's a lot.
I don't know what the pricing would be, because, like you said, that's a lot of really like considered premium. Like, because then you have like the Pixar movies, things like that, like where it's like to have access to all that, to go out and individually buy all those movies. Some of those movies still sell for like $70.
Right, and exactly. I don't know if they'll put stuff up that has never been streaming before. Like, if they'll just digitize their entire library and just put it all up on their streaming service. That would make it, you know, $20 or $30, and people would buy it because you can get all the, you know, classic.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We'll
have to see what it is. Is it just like their, you know, programming that they already have in the works of, like, you know, ABC and all that other crap that they own, and Fox that they might pick up and all that, or is it going to be like Disney on crack, where it's basically like, if you like everything that we own that goes on a screen, you can just find it here.
Right,
which would be, I think, worth some money, but it'd be how much? Because like you said, I don't know if I could do both of them. That'd be expensive. But yeah, that is it is interesting though. It'll be nice to see the Clone Wars come back. I was a big fan of Rebels. I thought it was a lot of fun. You know, and for people who are older who watch the series, just remember that it's an animated series. So as much as like Star Wars is like straight up for kids, the Clone Wars is like even more for kids. So there are moments that are like genuinely cheesy, but just it's for children. So just don't like be weird about it, because I don't know, it's a kid show. Because sometimes I'd watch it and be like, this is kind of whatever. But then other times you'd watch it and somebody's straight getting like a hole blown through their chest, like a blaster or something. So like, I don't know. Like sometimes it was like kind of intense too. So, but the Clone Wars is a great series if you haven't watched it. And if you've just seen parts of it, you should definitely like watch through the whole thing, because it's got some really cool, now considered canon plot points in it, and lore, and a lot of backstory for characters that don't really get a lot of screen time, like Plo Koon and people like that. Like Plo Koon was like one of the stars of that show for a long time, before he died in the. You know, I almost stop myself from saying Plo Koon died as if it was like gonna spoil something for like it was like a spoiler. I'm like, if you don't know that Plo Koon died at this point,
you're watching the wrong podcast.
I don't understand what you did. Well, it's like, oh, spoiler alert. Yeah, no, I don't think I'm spoiling that for anyone.
Anakin's Darth Vader. Oh my God, my bad. You didn't know that.
Oh my God, I was watching something the other day and they made that as a joke, like, oh, spoiler alert, man. But anyway, I was also reading the other day that, what's his name? Oh my gosh, Chaz. Akbar, he got a, this might have happened a little bit longer ago, but I just read about it, that he actually got his death or whatever written about, like his last like thoughts or something like that, or something that rather in a comic book somewhere. I have not read it, and I wish I had or have it so I could check it out. But I just thought that was cool, because, you know, he kind of went so quickly, and that was a little bit of a bummer for me, because I always thought he was such a cool character. But that is out there, and I did see that the other day, and I thought that was really cool, because I thought, I just thought that it's really cool that you can, like, now we're in this realm where we're getting, like, extensions of the movie in the books or in the...
Yeah, they're crossing over with each other.
in the comic books, and I think that's really sweet. And it's already out, and I haven't gotten to the store to get it yet, just because I've been so busy. But the new Thrawn book, you know, speaking of things crossing over, the new Thrawn book is coming out, and apparently there's rumors. Yeah, and that looks really good actually. I might pick that up because that looks pretty cool. The Padme book, but apparently Thrawn's supposed to be in Episode 9, which I thought was really interesting.
I haven't heard that.
I just saw that not too long because they were talking about casting for something. It was like a thing I said, but it was like I said, it was one of those articles where I'm like, yeah, this is BS probably, but
I literally don't even click them.
Yeah, we're talking about casting for someone and it possibly being Thrawn.
Oh, gotcha. So it's just a speculation type thing.
Yeah. So, but I have heard more than one, rumor saying he might be in there, but I just don't know how because I don't ever know like his death hasn't happened yet in the Star Wars whatever, so we don't know. I don't know. So
though.
Yeah, it'd be interesting how they fit him in and why he's in there, and if it would even make sense to have him in there. Because so far, I don't know of any tie he has between the Empire and the First Order. So I don't really understand how that would work. But
yeah, the only way it would make sense is because it's a familiar name. But other than that, I don't think. Yeah. Because all of his old stories are not canon anymore. Like, all of his old stories took place after Return of the Jedi in the old canon. But, but now all of his stories in the new canon are pre-Battle of Yavin. So it's...
Exactly.
I don't know. He'd have to be as old as hell.
Exactly. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking, too. I know he's an alien, so that could be a possibility why he might be older. His species might just, like, live longer. But either way, I thought that was interesting seeing kind of those like crossovers because we did have a little bit of that. Saw Gerrera was in Rogue One and
but Rogue One before Battle of Yavin. That's what I mean. Like if Admiral Thrawn had been in Rogue One in like a little flashy scene, or something, that would have been different. Or Solo or something. Yeah, or in Solo, that would have been cool seeing him in that. I would have been really interested in seeing him in that. But we'll see who's like. I honestly I am doing my best not to make the same mistake I made with Solo. And actually, I didn't really do it as much with Solo. Solo was just kind of one of those things where they just pumped out info, so I just it's on my feed, so I read it. But with Force Awakens, this time with Episode 9, I'm not really out overtly searching for information on the next movie and who's the cast list and who this character might be and is that gonna lead to any plot point? Because already people are speculating about flashbacks and what scenes might be flashbacks because Luke's in it. So because we know Mark Hamill is in it and we know that he died, we know that the only way he can be coming back is either flashback or Force Ghost. I mean, so it's probably definitely Force Ghost, I would think. But
I see your point, though. It's more than likely both. I mean,
flashback would be interesting. If Harrison Ford was in it too, I would agree. But the fact that he's not is a little weird for me. I think that there's probably, I don't know that there has to be any flashbacks though. Yeah. Like they could just be a funeral scene, and they could use Leia not as a flashback, but as a this is how she dies. And then they could have a funeral, that would explain Lando. I don't know. It's different for me.
Those two I don't see possibly being flashbacks. Luke definitely, he could be both because he's already dead. We already know he's dead. But with, like you said, with Leia and Lando, I feel like Lando, and like I said, already people are speculating on what's going to happen. But I already see this as they need to find some key to be able to figure something out. They need a hero of the rebellion because they just can't. They're running out of options, and then of course they seek out this guy, or he pops up randomly, or who knows. But I think it's awesome because it's officially the end of the Skywalker era, which I guess I don't know if is era a good. I mean,
it's the end of the Skywalker storyline.
It's saga, it's been decades, so I guess an era is not really, if it's been that, just one thing, but it's gonna be the official end. We'll see how long that lasts. So. We'll see how long it lasts. They're saying it's officially the end of it, so that's it.
That's what they said after Return of the Jedi, and then that's what they said after Revenge of the Sith. So we'll give it 15 years
true.
and see if we get another trilogy that, harkens back to this. But I do know that right now their strategy is to not have anything Skywalker related in Star Wars moving forward.
Yeah, I think that they would be better off just raking in cash for a little while with all like the other stuff. The movies
Right,
and
I would
books
agree with
and
that.
toys and just give the movies a break for a little while. I mean, I know they have this trilogy coming up that
The Rian Johnson trilogy.
Rian Johnson's in charge of, and that's like has nothing to do with the Skywalkers, and it's like set in a time that we haven't really been to yet, apparently, and so that'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But I don't know, for those movies, I don't really have any expectations for because I literally have no idea what they are. Like they could be because he's like he could create all new characters, all new aliens, all new ships, and say it's set in the Star Wars universe, and as long as it's like has those like certain key elements, we'll be like, yeah, okay, sure, it's Star Wars. So like
I do
that kind of thing is really nothing you can even talk about quite yet.
Yeah, I agree. I did see that on Instagram, I don't know, yesterday maybe, Kevin Smith posted, he said, I just got done writing the biggest script of my life. It's not something I'm allowed to talk about yet, but it's literally the biggest property I've ever been involved with. And if it gets picked up, then I'll be able to talk about it. But there's a lot of speculation that it's Star Wars because he's already written a DC script that wasn't made into a movie, but he wrote a Superman script that was like 9/10 of the way being made and then just stopped. And then he's also worked with Marvel movies. So if it's bigger than anything else he's been involved in, what's bigger than Marvel or DC? There's nothing other than Star Wars. So
other than Star Wars.
So that would be really interesting.
That's very true. I couldn't think of anything that would be bigger than
There's literally nothing bigger than Marvel other than Star Wars. So that would be really sick. Oh my god, yeah. I would watch everything. If Kevin Smith did anything Star Wars related, I would watch it 100 times. If it was a movie or a show, I don't care.
You know, I always the thing with him is that I've always he's never wrong. Like he's 100% always on point with like what he's talking about when it comes to like the certain nerd like facet or whatever he might be talking about at the time. Like he knows his stuff so well that you can trust him to take an entire property and be like, here, just make something beautiful with it. And he knows...
It's kind of like J.J. Abrams in that he's such a diehard fan himself, and he grew up such a fan that you know that his fandom will be pure in a way. Where it's like every time a Ninja Turtles movie comes out, I'm like, just let me write it. Like they're never gonna let me write it, but just let me as a fan write the thing because I'll give it its love, and I feel like he's like that with Star Wars especially.
Especially so. That's the thing is you can trust him with almost anything.
But Star Wars in particular is so right in his wheelhouse.
Definitely. Yeah, he's probably like one of my favorite people of all time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So that's really cool, and obviously that's all speculation. But I mean, just my own 2 cents. I can't picture it being anything else. Like if what could be bigger than Marvel or DC? I mean, it could be Harry Potter. Exactly. That would be the only other thing. But that would still have to be bigger than Marvel. Marvel's huge.
That's true.
I don't know.
Marvel
it's really difficult.
I don't know many things bigger. Like Star Wars is the biggest thing, so I'm just like, there's really nothing like bigger than Marvel's. Like you said, Marvel's huge. It's just especially now. I mean, Marvel was big when we were kids, but now it's like it's
right now. There's movies. Absolutely. It's the Star Wars of a generation without the creativity. I mean, really, it is. It's like if we had Star Wars when we were kids, but instead of, but based on other properties. Like that's what you have to remember is Marvel is all stuff that was written 60, 50 years ago. That's just now getting made into a movie. Whereas Star Wars was totally a brainchild of the person making the movie. The people that made up the characters that you watch on a Marvel movie are either dead or graybeards. So I mean, it's just a different situation, and they can still have like their unique stories and everything, but they're pulling off of so many things that don't require the creativity that George Lucas has in just his Pinky. And
oh no, you're 100% right, because it was like almost like once they realized that like everyone likes someone as far as like characters in the Marvel universe, then they were just like, we can just start like picking up these superheroes that have backstories, they have powers
villains,
already made,
they have storylines. Like, you literally don't have to do a thing other than make it like sexy and hope for the best, which is really what they're doing. Like, you look at some of their movies, there's nothing crazy about what they're doing other than and even the stuff that is crazy, you could argue is crazy just for the sake of being crazy. It's not crazy out of a creative place. It's crazy just so that when people leave the movie they can talk about how crazy it was. So I mean,
Ragnarok felt a lot like that.
Right, and I like Ragnarok and I like the new Avengers, but I do think there's parts of them where it's like, okay, like, you don't have to do that. You're just doing it because if you don't, you're not doing anything. Like, you literally just need to give people something to talk about. And I don't think Star Wars ever fell into that trap, really. Like, Star Wars was crazy, but it was crazy because it was crazy. It wasn't, not for the sake of being crazy. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anything bigger than Star Wars. I mean, bigger than Marvel, other than Star Wars. Unless he was doing like Star Trek, I guess. But Quentin Tarantino's already doing that, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. And then I thought to myself, as you said that, I thought to myself, like, what would get him that excited?
Exactly, that was the other thing. So, like, unless it was Batman or something, which he's already done DC again, and he said it's bigger than anything he's ever been involved with.
Didn't he write like 3 or 4 books? I'm pretty sure I read one of them.
Oh, he's written a bunch of comics. He's
done a bunch of Batman books.
Yeah,
he's
done comics. He's done the Flash TV show. He's done the Supergirl TV show. He's done a bunch of stuff in the Batman universe. I know he was tied to a Batman movie that ended up not being his and ended up being, I think, Batman and Robin. And he was also tied to a Superman movie that ended up being Superman Returns. And he wrote an entire script called Superman Returns. It just wasn't the same movie. And 10 years before it actually existed. So I don't. My nerd senses were tingling, unless it's Spider-Man or something, it's got to be Star Wars.
Yeah, and that would be anything whatever it is.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It could be anything, and I don't care. It would just be really cool if it was Star Wars.
It would be really, really cool if it was Star Wars. Plus, I feel like, that's how you get people back if they, if
they need to start. I mean, JJ was a good choice for Episode 7. We'll see how he is for Episode 9. And Ryan Johnson
I thought Ryan Johnson wasn't a bad choice.
Absolutely. He's better than Colin Trevorrow, who was going to do Episode 9. So.
Oh yeah, he was way better than that.
So yeah, we'll see. I think that and Ron Howard's an interesting choice too. So I think that they could, at the very least, it'll put butts in seats if it is Star Wars. Like, can you imagine the fanboy reception? Like, all those neckbeards that had nothing but complaints about Last Jedi would just splooge over the idea of Kevin Smith having something to do with it.
They'd be so happy. It'd be a wonderful time for everybody. And I think, honestly, it'd be good for, like you said, for the fan base, just because, right now it's just a little more toxic.
Right, and I do think it would be objectively good. Like, I think he's a good person who happens to appeal to those people that are toxic, and they can be toxic and still have, like, Kevin Smith appeal. And
I think it's because exactly what I said is, like, Kevin Smith is, like, considered, like, the like, end-all, be-all as far as, like, knowledge goes. Like, he's the aficionado. Like, in nerd, I don't know, history, to me it's like you have him and Patton Oswalt. There's, like, like, my two.
And there's a big gap between the two of them. I mean, there aren't very many people out there who would argue with Kevin Smith being cool. Like,
exactly.
Like, I mean, at least as far as nerds go, like, you'd be hard pressed to go to Comic-Con and find a nerd who's like, oh, I hate Kevin Smith. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Who doesn't, like, bow to the guy? Yeah, exactly. Especially because, like you said,
he's like every nerd's dream. He's like what you want to be if you grow up being a nerd. You want to be Kevin Smith at some point.
Exactly. He's what it would be awesome to be like if you're one of those kids who sat in front of your TV watching a movie and watching whatever, and then like making skits with your friends,
Right.
being stupid, and like watching start and getting picked on, and, like the dream is to be able to do what he did, like write these amazing, like now like literally like iconic movies that have become cult classics. And like own your own comic book shop and all this.
Right, have your Comic Book Men podcast, which is canceled, but
exactly, and
have
still
Comic
do all
Book
the
Men
crazy,
and
awesome stand-up that he does.
Right. Yeah. No. He's what you would hope you can be, and you can't because you'll never be as creative as him. But that's what everyone wants.
Not at all. And Dogma is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
It's such a good flick. But I think that would be awesome if we could see him do a Star Wars movie. I would lose my mind, man. And like you said, it might be able to bring together some of this nonsense that's going
Star Wars.
on.
Anything,
Star Wars.
Even if it was like a comic book or like a TV show or something. I don't even care.
Oh my god,
like,
a live action TV show, like give him a whole season of an entire TV show. I would like lose my mind.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing. If he was able to control like an entire.
Yeah, the only comparison I can think of now that I'm thinking about it would be Joss Whedon, and that's only because he's done everything too. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to see. Like I said, just as a Kevin Smith fan, regardless of whether it's Star Wars or not, just to see what he's talking about. But if it is Star Wars, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and just speaking of him and like Comic Book Men, those guys are pretty. We've met them 2 times now at Comic Cons.
That's cool.
Not Kevin Smith because he wasn't there, but we met his whole group of friends that he's always with.
Yeah,
Amber was really into the show for a while, and they're all really chill guys, really cool people.
I've met most of them at his shop.
From the time before.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh. Yeah, no, like, he was like, oh, wait, like, because Lila's hair is kind of hard to forget.
Right.
He was like, wait a second, I think you guys look like that. We were like, yeah, it was really cool. That was really neat. So,
that's awesome.
Cool people.
Yeah, Croce and I went to his shop in New Jersey one time. We took, like, a road trip. And, and it was awesome. But, yeah, we got to meet, like, Walt Flanagan and, Steve Davidson and all that, and... Yeah, it was pretty awesome to meet those guys.
And they're just normal dudes, man. They're just nerds.
Exactly.
Awesome
like they were literally just like clerking the shop. This is way before Comic Book Men existed, but they were still all in, all the View Askew movies and all the Clerks and Jane Silent Bob and all that. So like, just seeing them working the counter at a comic book shop was just so cool. And I have like a signed Kevin Smith action figure and like a signed Mallrats script and all this stuff and it was like Mecca for Croce and me. It was like heaven, but
are you kidding me? Yeah,
it was pretty cool, and they are super neat. I really hope that, like I said, if it's not whatever it is, I hope it gets picked up and he can talk about it, because if it's Star Wars, that would be the best best possible scenario. But whatever it is, I want to see it.
It's gonna be pretty cool, yeah. You can pretty much
like he's the only person I could think of that could make a DC movie that I would watch at this point. Like I legitimately,
that's 100% the truth. I
would never see another one that I can
you could name
picture.
Any director right now and say they're gonna do a DC movie, and I'll tell you I don't care.
Right.
Like, any director, unless it was like somebody just wild, like.
Yeah, like Spielberg or something.
Like Kevin Smith.
Right, Kevin Smith would be the only option, for real.
Like if it was Kevin Smith or something like that, or if it was like, what's his name? Oh gosh, like, I don't know, if they were like, Gambino was gonna direct a DC film or something crazy like that, then I'd be like, okay, I'm interested, let me hear what. But other than that, like, it's really hard to name a director where I'm gonna like lose it, because I just don't care.
Right? No, I would freak out if it was him.
Aquaman, and I'm like, I couldn't care less about Aquaman.
Oh my
I'm definitely
God,
not gonna go see that.
Yeah.
Definitely not gonna go see that. I mean, do you have any plans of seeing that movie?
No. I was talking about it with my friends the other day, and like I can't think of a single DC movie that I care about. Like I just don't care about any of the characters, and that's really. Like, I guess it's not important to everybody anymore, but, like, I need to care about what I'm doing, and I just don't, like, they could make anything, and I can't think of anything that I would be like, I need to go see that, like, no question. With the exception being if Kevin Smith made something. If Kevin Smith made, I mean, Shazam looks interesting, but I won't go see it. It just looks like big with superheroes. I'll probably rent it or something, but like I don't need to go watch it in the theater unless MoviePass is still working by then, and maybe I'll go see it for free. But other than that, I can't, like, Literally
Oh yeah, isn't
nothing.
there something going on with the movie pass thing?
Yeah,
Like,
it's pretty ugly right now.
or something crazy like that. Yeah, like they couldn't afford to send everybody to the movies one day or something like that.
Yeah, they've been down a couple times, but yeah, I mean,
They almost got stabbed.
if Kevin Smith made literally anything DC related, I would see it. That's about the
Oh
extent.
yeah, and like you said, that's probably the only way I would go see anything DC related at this point because the last several movies of theirs have just been just outright terrible.
Just unwatchable, boring, and poopy.
Yeah, just really bad. And that's the thing. It's that like the other day I was listening to this thing about superhero movies on NPR, and they were talking about how it was like I think it was the anniversary of Dark Knight, and how it was like the best superhero movie of all time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know. I like that movie. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great movie. I think the Joker was an awesome villain, and I think people were like really entranced by it. And not that I don't like him. You know, the Joker. I just wasn't like, to me. I just always felt like Jack Nicholson was like the.
Oh yeah,
Joker.
I'm the same way. And I also thought Michael Keaton was the Batman. I mean,
exactly.
I like
that's
Dark Knight, okay.
opinion.
It's just not escapist to me. Like, superhero movies don't have to be Christopher Nolan movies. Like, Christopher Nolan can stick to movies like Memento.
And like I said, it's not that they weren't bad, because like I said, I thought that Heath Ledger's Joker was really cool. I thought that he made the movie, and I thought it was pretty cool. But the best superhero movie of all time to me felt like kind of a stretch. But
right. I would say it's the best movie that happens to be a superhero movie, and you could make that claim. Like it's
yeah,
if that makes sense. But it's not like a definitive superhero movie to me. And I rewatched that whole trilogy like 2 weeks ago, just because I was
and it's really good.
Yeah, it's fine. I just don't. I don't know. It's not superhero movies to me should be like a comic book on the screen, and Dark Knight is like some comic books, but it's not whimsical or fun or anything. And
but again, like Tim Burton is one of those directors where if you told me Tim Burton was doing such and such, I'd be like, all right, I'm all over it, let me watch it.
And that's interesting because I don't like Tim Burton, but if someone was like, really? Tim Burton's making a Batman movie, I'd be like, all right, I'll watch it, because I like Tim Burton's Batman movies, but I don't like Batman movies, and I don't like Tim Burton movies. But if Tim Burton did a Batman movie, I would watch it. Oh, that is funny, huh? I would watch it, and I don't know. Because he gets the universe right. He gets like Gotham City how I think it should be. He gets the Batmobile how I think. Like the villains, everything is perfect from like a comic book perspective in his movies. Kind of like Sam Raimi and Spider-Man. Like, I don't really care about Sam Raimi movies, and I'll watch anybody's Spider-Man movie, to be fair. But if Sam Raimi made more Spider-Man movies or superhero movies in general, I'd be down, because his movies felt like a comic book. Like the colors popped and the characters were over the top, and that's how it should be sometimes.
Yeah, no, I feel like these newer comic book movies try to do this thing where they mix in realism with,
absolutely,
like, the comic book world. So it's like half and half, where it's like you have these real world elements in the comic book, and like you said, everything in the Tim Burton Batman movies, like down to the street signs and was in this weird kind of fantasy world. Yeah, all the like, Art Deco of Batman,
like the architecture and everything. It's just a totally different. It felt like a comic book, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And I think a lot of movies nowadays are super gritty, and they don't really need to be.
Yeah, and as far as like DC movies go, I mean, it's comparing the Dark Knight one to all those, that whole trilogy is way better than anything that's come out since. Because I think it's really
that's such a low bar.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really difficult because at the end of the day, and I hate to say it because I've always been a pretty big DC fan, when it comes to the comic books, because it used to be when we would have the conversation DC versus Marvel, the movies weren't even a part of the conversation. Right. It was the comics.
Comics and animated TV shows.
Exactly. And I was always such a big fan of the Batman, TV show with Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And I was always such a huge fan of, the Batman detective comic books growing up. I thought those were awesome. So like, I would just love those. So when I would argue DC versus Marvel, I had actual arguments I could make because there was good content.
Right.
Now, you know, it's a lot different. And not to mention, Marvel just has a wealth of characters to pull
Right.
from.
Oh,
DC
absolutely.
doesn't have that big,
Not the same way.
wealth of characters to pull from. And you know what? When you get to, like, honestly, like, you can go, like, 4 levels deep in Marvel, and people will still kind of recognize the character's name. You might not necessarily exactly know who you're talking about, but you kind of remember the name.
Oh, absolutely,
DC,
yeah.
Like, you go down, like, 1 level in DC, and people don't know who you're talking about. Like, if you're not, like, one of the people who are, like, really into comic books, you won't know who the person's talking, because it's just, they're obscure characters
Right.
that, like, nobody really even knows, you know? And especially the villains, like, particularly the villains in DC. Like, it's
Right.
like, there are DC villains that I could name all day, and people are like, who the hell is that? Like,
Right,
nobody,
exactly.
unless you know what I'm talking about, you had no idea. But Marvel's not the same way, and I think that's really also what's kind of been kicking DC's ass, is that, like, you're like, you don't have, like, Aquaman, like, you had to pull out Aquaman. Like,
Right.
I know you're trying to do the whole superhero, like, oh, like, you know, you're trying to bring
Everybody's
back the,
important.
you know, Justice League thing.
Right.
But, like, Aquaman, like, you're giving him his own movie? Like, Aquaman was the lamest of the superheroes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about DC is, like, their level of cool is limited to, like, 2 or 3 characters, and then everyone else is just super lame. And
So lame,
and
yeah,
they don't really
so
like make
lame.
sense for a big property. And whereas
Yeah.
Marvel, like, you have 1 or 2 lame people and everyone else is super cool. So I mean, it's a different argument too. But
Yeah.
I mean
now this Teen Titan things is coming, and it's like, now I'm like, they just can't get anything right. The Teen
right.
Titan thing
I
looks
guess
like
the
most
Teen
big
Titans
pile of thing I've
cartoon
ever
movie
seen.
that just came out, Go to the Movies or whatever. I
Yeah.
guess people really like that. Like, said
See,
it's funny
the
and
Teen
stuff.
Titans cartoon is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it always has been, except the weird anime one that they did for a while. Like, the original one is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
and
The
it's
movie, I guess,
hilarious.
that just came out, people really, really like. But
That's
that doesn't
awesome.
mean I have
The
to
live
go
action
see
one
it.
looks so bad.
Yeah.
I had trouble watching the trailer. It was that bad. Like, the
No,
part
that's
where
how
he
I
was
felt
like,
about
Batman.
Aquaman.
I'm like, oh god. Like, this is, well, we have a teen angsty Robin. This is great. This is exactly what I want to watch.
No, Aquaman was just as bad. And
Aquaman was so
yeah.
so
Sucks.
bad. I don't know what to do, man. Yeah, DC's got some work to do. But like you said, like, it's hard to compete with, because Marvel had their whole plan solidified so long ago.
Right.
Like we talked about before, like, you know, we knew what Marvel movies we were getting years out because they were
Right.
like so specific about their
Yeah,
plan.
DC's plan was
like,
just to try to copy Marvel. Like,
Try
look
to
at Marvel's
play
plan
catch-up.
and do the same thing 5 years later. And
yeah.
and that's
the
fine. I don't really
Justice
care.
League
I
and
just don't.
this
I'm not gonna
movie.
ever watch it. That doesn't
No,
mean
it's not.
other people don't have to.
And it's just because they're not good movies. Because if you did, you know, if you had put out movies that were good, you know what I mean? Like Batman vs Superman should have been a good movie. Like,
Right.
the comic book where they went up against each other was incredible. It's probably one of the best Batman comic books that are out there. When, like, you know, Batman gets older and blah blah blah, and they go through
Right.
this whole fight, and it's awesome. It's like a really good. But first, the movie was nothing like the comic book. First off, and second off, it was just bad. It was just bad. It was a bad movie. It's altogether just not a good movie. So, like, it's just frustrating because I'm like, that should have been a decent flick. Like, you guys should have been able to pull that one off. But it's like, it's not even just that it's not even just all these other things that they have going against them with this, just not having as good villains, not having as many great characters to pull from, all this other stuff. And then on top of that, you're just not making watchable movies.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
Marvel's
like, that
bad
doesn't help
movies are
either.
still cool characters. Like, I'll still watch Civil War
Exactly.
because I like Black Panther and Spider-Man, but that movie's terrible.
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
watch it and that's fine. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just you
But
can't
it's
really
gonna
do
be
it.
really hard to get me to go to the movie for Aquaman. Like, it's
Oh, I'm
gonna
not
be
going.
hard.
Are you kidding me? Unless I can go for free, or if somebody pays me.
Exactly. But I'm just like, that's what I mean. It's like characters, like you said, like, you know, Spider-Man or Black Panther, there's, you know, Deadpool, all these other characters, like, they'll get me, like, all right, yeah, I'll go see a movie because I love the character. Like, DC, it's like, Batman,
I'm out.
that's it.
Right.
Like, Batman, that's it. That's all you have, really. I mean, Superman, has become so lame over time to me that I just can't even get on board with any Superman flicks anymore. Like, I don't know. Superman has always been on the fence with me as a superhero, just because of how, like, iffy his powers can be sometimes.
He's lame. He's
like,
boring.
I don't know, like, sometimes, like, what bothers me about Superman, like, sometimes with Superman, he, like, will get punched in the jaw, and he's like, oh, that hurt. And then other times he gets, like, shot in the eye.
Right.
It's perfectly fine. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, you gotta pick a lane, Superman. Either you're invincible or
Yeah,
you're
no,
not.
that's why he's so boring, is because it's not compelling to me, because you know how it's going to end every time. And he doesn't have cool villains either.
It's like basically watching a Scooby-Doo episode. You know,
Right.
you know exactly.
And that was
how
appealing
it's
back
gonna-
then, and I get that. Like, I get what he symbolized and what he meant,
Yeah.
you know, when he was relevant. But I just don't think it's compelling
That's kind of how
now.
I feel about Captain America too. Not that he's like has crappy powers or anything. I just feel like his character's a little dated.
Yeah,
but-
the interesting thing with Captain America, though, is that he's always written to keep up with modern, you know, situations.
Right.
Where if something is happening in the real world, he'll comment on it, or he'll have a storyline that, you know, is reflective of that thing in the comic.
Right.
Or he'll
Right.
die, and like every time the American government does something terrible, they kill Captain America, and that's, I don't know, that's always been interesting to me too. But I just think that where Superman doesn't have what Captain America does is like good people around him, like villains, good teammates. I mean, Superman is not interesting because he doesn't have anything good to fight. He doesn't have anything worth fighting for. Like, Spider-Man's the most interesting comic book character to me because, well, A, he's got weaknesses and he could die, and he's got so much that he's fighting for, but he's also, like, he makes mistakes and has really awesome villains and people around him, and Superman doesn't have either of those.
Exactly, and that's the only reason why Batman's the best DC villain, is because he has all those things. Like, he has good villains to fight,
Right.
he has a reason to fight, he has, even though Batman can get confusing sometimes because it's like vengeance / justice kind of gets in a weird space. But like, you're right, like Superman has always been kind of weird to me because Superman's whole thing is like he holds himself back. Like, he does, like, he could just basically
Right, he
run
can
the
just
whole
murk
world.
everybody, yeah.
Yeah, he could just destroy everything if he felt like.
Right, and if he
that
doesn't
would be
like
bad.
it, just fly the world in the opposite direction really fast to turn back time, like
Yeah,
he does in
and turn back to
Superman
exactly.
2 or
So
whatever.
it's like Superman's whole thing is like, I could be this incredible god, but instead I decided to be a benign, helpful person.
Right.
And it's not. Yeah, it's kind of like a different story where it's like, you know, Spider-Man, his whole, you know, it's much different. He makes mistakes. There's like a risk. Like, if that web somehow snaps and he falls, like,
Right, and he's got people that he cares about that,
He could-
like, stand to get hurt if he makes a mistake. Like, I don't know, he's just not, Superman's not interesting to me, and he never has been. I've never liked him in anything, movies, video games, comics, and I like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, okay, but not because he's a cool character, just because I like Christopher Reeve and John Williams. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's hard for me to
Yeah, which is funny because
respect
I just, my mom loved those movies, and as a kid I just never really could get super into them, and I think it was just because by the time we had like watched them, I had already, like, you know, like by the time my mom was introducing me to those, like Spider-Man with like Tobey Maguire, like those were already out.
Right.
Like Fantastic Four had come out, stuff like that had come out. So I'm like, you know, these superheroes are getting a lot cooler all of a sudden. So I'm like, well, this is lame. This guy's like flying around with strings attached
Right,
to
right.
him. like, so I was like, I'm not really too into it. So I've never really seen a Superman movie that I've actually really liked that much because, you know, we haven't really ever gotten one. Like Man of Steel, I didn't like that movie.
Yeah.
I have people who like that I know that really genuinely love that movie, and I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't like it. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. But either way, we're like way off topic from Star Wars. But yeah, there's like I said, guys. Episode 9 is really quiet. It's hush hush. It's not like Solo was. So there's not much to talk about as far as Star Wars news goes. But there's always stuff to talk about with Star Wars. I'm hoping to catch up on some of the books and stuff when I finally have the time. But it's just been so busy lately, and it looks like I might be getting even busier soon. So hopefully we can still be able to do this now some time on Wednesdays, and I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get as consistently, just but, you know, I've kind of been pulling a Jared lately, and I've just been so busy with work and trying to get a new, like, this whole new career kicked off the ground that it's just, like, now I'm, like, not back in school, but I'm doing classes again and things like that, so I'm just like, oh my god, it's just super busy time, so, I will do my best to make sure that we can get to you guys on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. I appreciate Adam for being so consistent with things. Next week, we'll be here too. I should be here. I don't see why I wouldn't be. Over the weekend, I'm hoping to have some time to do some competitive like live streaming on the Cube Gamers channel for Mortal Kombat. So if you guys are into fight games at all, come check that out because I'll be attempting to do these. I ranked, I can't even remember, like 100 and something out of 300 people last time. So I did terribly, but it was a lot of fun. So if you're into that kind of thing, you guys should come check it out. But yeah, I'm Chaz, and I'm joined every week by Adam. Again, I'm sorry we've been a little inconsistent. I'm going to try to make sure we're a little bit better going forward. I just got to get my schedule nailed down to the wall a little bit better. But we will see you guys next week.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah, bah. Let me get out of a firefight so I can stop the broadcast. Oh, I got killed, damn it.